Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 9. Escaping Danger. At that time, the black mass of the migrating army left Luoyang. Dongzhou and the young emperor were sitting in the carriage. Lu Xie lifted aside the hanging curtain of the window and looked out, and within his fresh, young face, his eyes carried a thread of numbness and bleak desolation. After leaving Hang Pass, they would head directly for Chang'an, the ancestral land of the Han rulers. The 400 years of painstaking effort that had been put into Luoyang had been completely destroyed by fire. There were less than 50,000 people left in the capital, and they were all leaving, fleeing west with their families in tow. Soldiers with stern, cruel countenances patrolled through the ranks. On their journey, Dongzhou called over a commander and asked about the military situation along the way. Upon learning that Yuan Shao and his allied forces had just entered Luoyang, he set his mind to rest. At this moment, Sun Ce and Zhou Yu were hiding on the mountain, anxiously staring at the direction that the carriage was traveling in. Fei Yu let out a cry as it sped through the air towards them. Sun Ce untied the cloth strip tied to Fei Yu's claw and took a look at it. Neither of them spoke. "Retreat, Ba," Sun Ce said. "We've missed out on an opportunity," Zhou Yu responded. "Oh well." Sun Jian was unwilling to send troops, which was something within their calculations. The plans of man were nothing in the face of the will of the gods, and in the end, they had no choice but to return, their tails between their legs. Just as the two of them were about to head down the mountain, they managed to startle the Liangzhou troops in the region that were patrolling the area. "Who's there?" someone immediately roared. "Spies. Capture them." The soldier leading the patrol immediately discovered the two of them, and Sun Ce said quietly, "Run, quickly." The two of them only had Sun Ce's white piebald and they speedily slid down the mountain. Branches whipped past their faces and bodies, each leaving behind a fiery pain. Zhou Yu suddenly shouted, "Split up and run. You escape first." Sun Ce, "No way. Zhou Yu, even if they catch me, I'm of no use to them. If they catch you, your dad is Sun Jian, Dongzhou definitely won't let you off. Quickly dash." Sun Ce said angrily, "If I lose you again, where am I supposed to go find you? This isn't up for discussion. Our 8 characters don't match." Sun Ce laughed loudly, and the two of them simultaneously slid sideways, sliding towards the foot of the mountain with a hua, before they mounted the white piebald. The soldier issuing commands roared loudly, "Capture the assassins. Don't run that way." Zhou Yu shouted loudly as he hugged Sun Ce around the waist, the two of them still sharing one horse. "What are you afraid of? Wait until I send them running with their tails between their legs." Sun Ce shouted optimistically. "This young lord is coming for you, Zhou Yu." Arrow shafts whistled towards them, and Zhou Yu squeezed his eyes shut. Sun Ce pressed the white piebald on, and actually managed, under the encirclement of a group of soldiers, to rush right into the enemy's squadron of carts. At this time, the procession immediately fell into great disarray. The soldiers had no more attention to spare to chase them, instead all moving to protect the horse carts. Zhou Yu keenly sensed something, and he immediately turned his head, observing the direction that the soldiers were moving to stand guard in. No Sun Ce immediately guessed what Zhou Yu had in mind and directly stopped him. Within the horse carriage was definitely the emperor and Dongzhou, for them to miss such an opportunity just like that was a pity. But before Zhou Yu could even suck in a breath, the white piebald let out a long whinny, crashed into a freight cart and overturned it, before with a leap, it flew into the air. It landed with its forehooves on the ground, vanishing like a flash of lightning in the plains. The wind gusted by their ears. Zhou Yu turned and looked back, and as expected, their enemies weren't willing to let them go. Thousands of Liangzhou troops split off from the rest of the army in pursuit. "We need to figure out a plan to throw them off our scent," Zhou Yu said. "No problem," Sun Ce said. "My steed is a white piebald, a horse that nothing in this world can catch up with. You're sure? Zhou Yu intently watched as on the horizon, the commander leading the Liangzhou troops drew closer and closer. Chia! Sun Ce roared angrily. I don't believe we can't outrun them. With a great jolt, Zhou Yu almost fell off the horse. Watch out! Hang on! Zhou Yu pulled the bow and arrows off Sun Ce's body and leaned backwards. As soon as he drew the bowstring, he loosed an arrow, which whistled as it flew out. The commander chasing after them also ducked at the same time, evidently unharmed. They're getting even closer. What? That isn't possible. Sun Ce said. The white piebald is carrying 2 people. Shut up. Sun Ce said, gritting his teeth. I won't leave you behind. Then you get off the horse and let me go first, ba. Zhou Yu couldn't resist shouting. Sun Ce. There's a forest ahead. Sun Ce said loudly. Be careful. The 2 of them, on a single horse, rushed into the forest. With a series of loud noises, Sun Ce circled and turned in the grove. Every time that Zhou Yu thought the 2 of them would smash right into a tree, the white piebald managed to skim by the trees that they couldn't dodge by a mere hair's breadth. As Sun Ce controlled the horse's direction, he still had the spare time to chat, and he said, the horses that can outrun my beloved steed can be counted on the fingers of one hand. The only thing I'm worried about is that one of those is pursuing us, Zhou Yu replied. But the situation no longer allowed them time to chat idly. As the scenery in front of their eyes suddenly grew expansive, Sun Ce roared loudly, watch out. With a long whinny from the white piebald, the horse with its 2 young riders leapt out from within the trees, drawing an arc through the sky as they flew towards the little creek which shone with thousands of rays of golden light. But someone in the creek shouted, who's there? Zhou Yu, there's an ambush. Before his sentence finished echoing, Sun Ce and Zhou Yu plummeted right into the water. With several hwalas, they fell in. Zhou Yu and Sun Ce were both very adept at swimming. Just as they landed in the water, both their heads popped out. Zhou Yu's heart thumped. There was an ambush in front and pursuing troops behind, this time they were completely done for. Sun Ce stood up from the water. This creek was only waist high, so the 2 of them sloshed a few steps forward, only for a threatening voice to say, don't move. At least let us get on land first, ba. Sun Ce roared angrily, feeling bedraggled beyond belief. Stay standing in the water, a man's voice said from not too far away. Sun Ce and Zhou Yu turned their heads at the same time, only to see that within the waters of the creek stood a martial general and a white horse. The martial general's long, wet hair was loosely tied, the upper half of his body bare. Without even looking at them, he was currently wringing dry an inner robe. What do you do? That martial general finally lifted his gaze to look directly at the 2 of them. The martial general's hair was black, and he appeared both young and heroic. His features were gentle, and the muscles of his bare back and chest were well proportioned and firm. Neither Sun Ce nor Zhou Yu responded. That martial general then led his own white horse up onto the bank. He was wearing a pair of long white pants, which were embroidered with lifelike depictions of coiling dragons stitched in black thread. A set of silver armor was drying on a rock, and to one side was placed a long spear. Zhou Yu could roughly guess what had happened. This martial general was all on his own with only his horse for company. When he and Sun Ce came charging in, he was currently washing his horse in the stream, and also taking a bath while he was at it. Sun Ce said quietly, ignore him, let's go quickly. That martial general, with his feet bare, walked to the edge of the bank, watching the 2 of them. Sun Ce was about to lead his horse out as well, when Zhou Yu said, you aren't from the Liangzhou troops. Answer me first. That martial general's gaze shifted from Zhou Yu to Sun Ce, before then moving to their horse. Sun Ce immediately thought of a possibility: he was one of their own. He must have been sent out by the Allied troops. Is this general from the Allied troops? How should this one refer to you? Sun Ce asked. This one is under the command of the Changsha prefect Sun Jian. Before he could finish speaking, someone else rushed out from within the grove. Zhou Yu's and Sun Sa's expressions instantly changed, and they speedily clambered up onto the bank, horse and all. "Those brats are trying to escape," a voice called from within the grove. The marshal general gripped the silver spear in his hand as he took a step forward. Just as the words rang out, another martial officer, wearing a set of fully black armor, rushed out from within the trees, riding a prized Akal horse. The war horse let out a long whinny as it reared on the northern bank of the river. Behind him, over 100 archers appeared, and he roared, "None of you should even think about escaping." It was then that bare-chested marshal general stepped in front of Sun Sa and Zhou Yu, shielding the two of them behind him. From the southern bank of the forest, a dense mass of white-armored archers appeared, pointing their arrows at the forces on the opposite bank. The two sides were separated by a river, and they instantly fell into a stalemate. When Zhou Yu saw that martial officer on the other side that had come racing after them, he immediately understood. The reason that they couldn't escape their pursuers today was not because Sun Sa's horse was slow, but rather because their luck was as bad as it could get. The person on the opposite bank was wearing a set of black-scaled armor, his head clad in an iron helmet that bore a pheasant plume. He was 9 feet tall and held the fanged yen halberd. His nose was hooked like an eagle's beak, and his eyebrows were as sharp as a sword's edge. His gaze held resentment, and the horse he rode on was exactly one of those 5 that could catch up with the white piebald, the divine steed, the red hare that could chase even the wind. This time, they were actually going to fall into Lu Bu's clutches. They hadn't expected that he would personally come chasing after them. When Zhou Yu turned his head to look at the other side, his hands were slippery with sweat. He was afraid that the white-armored troops were not enemies of Lu Bu, but he once again recalled that scene where the two sides had crossed swords in battle when he had first entered Sikang. Hadn't it been this exact same white-armored army that had crossed swords with Lu Bu's riders? Sun Sa didn't know that the two sides had already fought before. In a grave tone, he reminded that bare-chested martial general in front of him, "General, this person is the Marquis of the household Lu Bu. You must be extremely careful." The martial general that was protecting them turned his head slightly. Under the light of the midday sun, his kind eyes held not even a trace of fear as he faced Lu Bu. The corners of Lu Bu's mouth twitched slightly as he narrowed his eyes. With a single command, both sides would rush at each other, hacking and slashing, dyeing the waters of the creek red with blood. But he didn't attack, instead laughing coldly. "Zhao Zilong, you still want to fight another round? How about you put on your clothes first?" That martial general gripped the silver spear in his hand, replying gravely, "You cannot take these two away, because they are my side's allied troops. If the Marquis of the household wants to attack, then this general will naturally follow suit." That provoked an uproar from both sides, but Lu Bu didn't go forth. Instead, he pointed the fanged yen halberd forward, saying, "The other one can go, but Sun Jian's dog of a son must be handed over to this general. If you do so, then we can pretend that you and I never saw each other here today." "No," Sun Sa said. "I won't go back with you." "Shouldn't you call me Shifu, disciple?" Lu Bu asked menacingly. Zhou Yu startled at that, turning an incredulous gaze on Sun Sa. Sun Sa merely cupped his hands and bowed. "Shifu, this disciple cannot go with you. You're the disciple of the Marquis of the household." Zhao Yun watched Sun Sa warily. Now that things had come to this, Sun Sa could only grit his teeth and press forward. Lu Bu said coldly, "Sun Jian promised that he would send his son to the elite cavalry to learn skills. But as of today, he has changed his tune as quickly as flipping the page of a book. I'll hold on to his son and release you all, so leave Ba." Lu Bu was extremely overbearing, but Zhou Yu said, "I'll take his place and go." "It's you again," Lu Bu said, looking at Zhou Yu. "What exactly is your background?" "You cannot." Sun Sa immediately stopped Zhou Yu. "Marquis of the household," Zhao Yun said sternly, saluting him in a way that was neither overbearing nor timid, "this matter must wait until this general returns to report to General Sun and the commander of the alliance before this general can release these two. Otherwise, neither of them can go with you. I apologize for the offense." Immediately, Lu Bu flew into a great rage, but Zhao Yun stood as steady as a mountain, standing in front of Sun Sa and Zhou Yu like a protector god. He said slowly, "If the Marquis wants to forcefully act, then how about you and me fight 3 rounds right now? If the Marquis is able to win, then I will no longer concern myself with this matter. How does that sound?" Lu Bu had fought as he pleased on this world for 10+ years, but had anyone ever dared to challenge him to a fight? After that defeat under Hulao Pass, there was now this arrogant junior who didn't have much of a reputation at all, asking for a beating. How could he let that go? Lu Bu said, "This Marquis will fight 3 rounds with you. All of you, step back." After both sides' troops retreated like the tide, Zhao Yun lifted his long spear, walking into the shallows. Zhou Yu and Sun Sa held their breaths in response. But before Lu Bu could attack, a messenger came from behind, hurriedly saying a few sentences. Lu Bu's expression immediately changed, growing dark. He said, "Oh well, these 3 rounds will have to wait. Today I will allow you to take them, but we will decide the victory and the defeat in the coming days. Men, move out." As soon as Lu Bu said they were going, they left, retreating from within the trees like a gust of wind. Zhao Yun kept his hand on his silver spear like he always had, watching Lu Bu's silhouette leaving, to prevent him from rushing back again for the kill. It wasn't until he confirmed that the Liangzhou troops had indeed retreated that he let out a breath of relief. "You all used the luring the tiger out of the mountain trick?" Zhao Yun asked Zhou Yu. "We haven't." Zhou Yu was extremely skeptical. Sun Sa said, "It should be that someone else went to ambush the procession of carts again." With this, Zhao Yun finally put on his clothes. Sun Sa and Zhou Yu thanked him, but Zhao Yun waved his hand. "It was but the effort of me lifting a hand, do not mention it. Since we are allies, then naturally we should help each other." At noon, Zhou Yu and Sun Sa followed along with Zhao Yun's troops. After they had each supplied what the other side lacked, Zhao Yun explained that he was under the command of the White Horse General, Gong Sun Zan. On Yuan Shao's orders, he had come here in pursuit of a remnant of one of Dongzhou's defeated armies. On the way, he had received Gong Sun Zan's secret envoy, whose message was for him to keep his troops where they were and not move, to merely wait outside the hang pass for supporting troops to arrive. "What we still don't know is who took this opportunity to ambush the cart procession," Zhou Yu said, trying to watch from afar. Sun Sa shook his head. "If we were to ambush them now, we would have already missed our prime opportunity. The cart procession had already traveled too far from the pass, and since the two of them had startled Dongzhou the first time, Lu Bu probably already had defenses in place." Zhao Yun then said, "I heard that Cao Mend was leading a division in hopes of rescuing the emperor. I'm afraid that he may not have succeeded either. The speed that they are traveling at now is not one that an army can hope to keep up with. Let's go ba." The two of them followed Zhao Yun's troops in entering the pass. A line of people bid each other farewell under the pass, and Zhou Yu once again tried to express his thanks, only for Zhao Yun to deflect it time and again, and only after this was done did he return to Luoyang. Sun Sa cheerfully watched Zhao Yun leave. Zhou Yu's expression immediately changed, and he said, "Lu Bu is your Shifu." Sun Sa replied, "Didn't he already say so? Lu Bu treated me pretty well, and before our two sides started fighting, I was thinking of asking him to bring you out of Luoyang." "Now that won't work," Zhou Yu said helplessly. Just now, they had learned of the battle situation at Hulao Pass from Zhao Yun. It was only because Sun Jian had changed sides mercilessly, meeting Lu Bu's troops head-on without flinching, that the Tiger of Jiangdong's reputation had proven to ring true. he had actually sent Lu Bu's elite cavalry running in a mad dash for their lives, heedless of their reputations, and all he was afraid of was Lu Bu capturing Sun Ce and using him as a hostage. Under the Hang Pass, the clouds changed, as if a storm of torrential rain was about to arrive. After one night, Sun Ce and Zhou Yu were each riding a horse. Sun Ce brought him outside of the market under the pass and notified the guards there, who brought out 6 large carts, 4 horses, and a group of merchants. Zhou Yu was instantly struck dumb with amazement. Sun Ce smiled. "I've found your horse carts for you." They were being held by Hua Xiong, and only after this young lord personally led troops in to slaughter those troops did I manage to snatch them back. That group of merchants came forward, each of them gratefully thanking Sun Ce. Zhou Yu was already at a loss for what to say, and after searching his thoughts for a long time, he finally said, "Oh well, now we can finally go back to hand over the goods." "Don't hurry to leave just yet," Sun Ce said. "When will you return? Let's decide on a time and a place, so that we can easily meet again." Zhou Yu said, "After I return home and unload all the goods and send each of them home safely, I'll come over immediately. This debt that I owe you, I won't be able to repay in almost 10 lifetimes, so I can't afford to shortchange you on this contract of indenture." Sun Ce laughed loudly and patted Zhou Yu's shoulder. The sky was faintly brightening, but the stars in the sky had yet to withdraw. Sun Ce kept Zhou Yu company the entire way to the Hang Pass, where he finally said, "Ride my horse." With that, the two of them exchanged horses. Sun Ce then said, "Take Fei with you. If anything comes up, have it deliver a message." Zhou Yu could only take Sun Ce's bird he was offering. "Sun Bafu," Zhou Yu said suddenly, turning his horse around. Sun Ce rode on the horse, watching him with a careless air. He smiled and said, "Don't miss me too much." "I will return," Zhou Yu said. Zhou Yu had ridden several zhang away when Sun Ce couldn't resist it anymore. "Zhou Gongjin." Zhou Yu reined his horse to a stop, turning his head back casually, meeting Sun Ce's gaze. In that instant, it was as if time had moved like water. How many years of the ever-surging tide, the ebb and flow of the waves, the flames blazing in the sky, beacon fires lighting up across the land, passed in this indescribable, inexplicable single gaze. No matter how long it had been, Zhou Yu still remembered the way Sun Ce had looked in that moment of daybreak, his silhouette backlit by the stars above and the new dawn, and his gaze. It was as if it was half bright day, half dark night. Dawn was breaking over the horizon, and a thread of twilight pulled itself taut between the two of them. The shadows of the mountain range accompanied the brilliant, blinding light of the blazing, newly born sun as they slowly turned. "Are you willing to stand with me, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, to conquer the world?" Sun Ce asked with a serious expression. "I'll only ask you this one sentence. As long as you come, then you cannot leave." Zhou Yu lifted his eyes to look at Sun Ce, saying, "I know. If you're afraid of owing me a debt," Sun Ce added, "then we no longer need to bring up this matter. Sun Bafu has done these things for you, not because he wishes to take advantage of you." "I know," Zhou Yu repeated, lifting his eyes calmly and composedly despite the situation as he looked towards Sun Ce. He said slowly, "I am willing to come to your side and assist you, at the heart of it, not because of this debt." "Then for what?" Sun Ce asked. "Because I think highly of you," Zhou Yu said. "Perhaps, there will come a day when the entire world is your Sun family's. Before that day comes, let's see how far the two of us can go. Owing you this bit of debt, what does it count for in the grand scheme of things? Isn't that right?" Sun Ce smiled. "Then you're willing to come?" "I'm willing," Zhou Yu said. "Chia." The white piebald turned around on the path, racing after the tail end of the caravan, vanishing into the depths of the vast mountain forest. End chapter. Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 10. Xiaopi. At this time, it was already late autumn, and on the road back to Shuxian, a torrential rain began to fall. A mere 3 days after he had left, Zhou Yu felt regret. The road was nothing but mud, and the weather was turning cold. After the wheels of the cart sank into the mud, the entire group of people would have to push the cart along for it to go. Zhou Yu thought to himself that if he had known earlier, then he wouldn't have declined Sun Sa's offer of sending his troops along to escort them back. But, if Sun Sa did leave his post without permission, he would have to endure a disciplinary beating from Sun Jian. Since the day that he had met Sun Sa, Zhou Yu had brought him an endless amount of troubles, so if he could decrease that amount by a little, then that was good. Zhou Yu's build was large, and he had a lot of strength as well, but as he followed the traveling merchants, pushing the carts along under such a downpour, he was completely drenched. On the journey, he devoured ginger soup that could ward off the cold, only afraid that he would fall ill before he even got home. This journey took a whole half a month, and the weather was at times good and at times bad. Originally, he had arranged to bring the caravan back to Shu County before he would head at top speed towards Shaochun, where Yuan Shu was, to await the arrival of Sun Sa. But if he fell ill as soon as he got home, perhaps he would have to spend many months recuperating. As soon as Zhou Yu thought of that, his head ached. Thankfully, though there were many troubles on the road and countless dangers, they managed to return home safely in the end. When they arrived in Shuxian, they caused a stir throughout the entirety of the small town. Zhou Yu, wholly exhausted, returned home, where his mother was currently waiting. "You've returned?" Madame Zhou asked. "I've returned," Zhou Yu said. "All the carts have been brought back, and none of the people are missing either." Outside, there was a constant stream of people coming to their door to thank them. Madame Zhou had clearly been worried before, but now that her son had returned home, she was finally relieved of that weight. She went back to her rooms to change into a set of formal robes before walking out into the yard. "Old Madame Zhou. Young Master Zhou. The Zhou family has shown us great kindness." But Madame Zhou indicated that they shouldn't speak just yet, before she knelt down and kowtowed to the villagers. With this gesture, the entire courtyard was filled with an uproar. Zhou Yu hurried to support his old mother, following her in kowtowing 3 times to their fellow villagers. "My son has lived in Shu County all his life," Madame Zhou said earnestly. "He was taken care of by all of our old neighbors and fellow villagers, and even more so, the silk store is at the scale it is today exactly because of everyone here. For us to be able to contribute in such a way is only part of our duties. How can we bear these thanks? After my deceased husband bid farewell to the world, we have relied on all of you, our neighbors and fellow villagers. As of today, it should be me, in place of my deceased husband and my naive child, thanking everyone for their usual support and kindness," Madame Zhou said, smiling. "Dear villagers, please return and do not bring up any life-saving debts anymore. If anything arises on a day-to-day basis, then please, do let us know how we can be of use." Everyone then went through another few rounds of thanking and politely declining, before finally leaving their presence and taking their leave. That night, Madame Zhou watched Zhou Yu's face closely under the lamplight, stroking his head incessantly as she sighed. "The Sun family sent an envoy who delivered the news to me, which is the only reason why mother could sleep a little better these past few days." Zhou Yu described his journey to Luoyang to his mother. His mother then thought of something, and she explained, "The Chiao family also sent someone, asking after your well-being and whether or not you had returned from Luoyang. Seems like Prefect Chiao was also very worried." Zhou Yu nodded, and for a time the mother and son had no words to exchange. A long while later, Madame Zhou rose, watching the raindrops out beyond the corridor, and she said, "This time, we really have no way to repay the kindness that the Sun family has shown us. Bafo has always been a good child, and he's come to visit us ever since he was small. Your father liked him greatly, and General Sun has always looked after us very well. Bafu won't say anything along the lines of debts, Zhou Yu said, sipping a mouthful of warm tea. Mother, I promised him, and it's about time I head to Shaochun. That is how it should be, Madame Zhou replied. In these 2 years, Mother has always been worried about you, but hearing these words now, I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not afraid that there will be no one to take care of you out there, but I was afraid that you would care too much about the family and waste your years, leading a life without any achievements, whiling it away just like that. Mother. Zhou Yu's eyes instantly reddened. Madame Zhou smiled slightly, sitting down again as she said, when your father was alive, he and General Sun were old friends. Now, his son is grown, and my son is also grown. Though my son may not show more promise than General Sun's son, he still understands what he should do, and he has his own ambitions in mind. In these few years, Mother has seen how you are at home. Although you say that you are running the business and taking care of family matters because someone has to take care of them, Mother knows that those things are not what you actually want to do, isn't that right? But I can't help but worry about you, Zhou Yu said. I do not even know if the Changsha prefect will reside for long in Shaochun. Madame Zhou said, you go as you wish, even to the ends of the earth. If you aren't able to rest assured about Mother, then when the time comes, Mother will sell off the store, and with the role of betting, I'll follow alongside you. Your father was a good man, and my son will also be able to build up a good undertaking as well. Haven't you heard what they say? In this world, as long as you are a man, there will always be 2 people who believe without a shred of doubt that he is an incredible person. The first is his mother, and the second is his wife. Zhou Yu was so tickled by that he began to chuckle. He then said, all right, then tomorrow I will set off, but while I'm at home. No need to worry, Madame Zhou said. You just need to be a good person and take care of matters diligently. Mother will be happy staying at home and hearing about them, though I will always look forward to seeing you. When Mother eventually arrives in Shaochun, it would be nice to hear people praising you, isn't it like that? Zhou Yu's eyes were reddened, and he nodded his head, watching his mother. Madame Zhou stroked Zhou Yu's head and gave him a hug. Originally, Zhou Yu wanted to set off the very next day to Shaochun, but the cold had set into his bones. It was only because of his will that he had held out, and the medicine that had kept it suppressed. He finally got a moment to catch a breath when he got home, only for him to grow feverish that very night, and he fell very ill. The next day, Madame Zhou couldn't wake him, and when she felt his forehead, it was boiling hot. She knew that this was not to be taken lightly, and she hurried to send for renowned doctors to treat him. The estate bustled with activity for several days. When Lu Su heard that Zhou Yu had returned home, he had personally come to visit, only to head up Mount Gu to invite the mute monk down. Those that wrote prescriptions did so, and those that practiced acupuncture did so, and only after using all of their energy did they manage to reduce the severity of Zhou Yu's condition. But even as he was so ill, he was barely aware of what was happening around him, and Zhou Yu was still thinking of how he had promised to meet Sun Sa 1 month later. He was afraid that he would miss the day, and he tried several times to get up and go, but only after Lu Su gave him a solid punch did he lie down obediently. At the heart of it, you do like Sun Bafu? Lu Su asked, sitting at Zhou Yu's bedside, chopping up a piece of ginseng. With attitude but no energy, Zhou Yu shot him an angry glare. His throat hurt with a fiery pain and his nose was still stuffy, so he didn't have the energy to taunt him back. What official position has the Sun family promised you? Lu Su asked. Zhou Yu didn't respond. How much food? Zhou Yu didn't make a sound. Marquee over how many households? Lu Su continued. You think you're Xiao He? Lu Su asked. Being convinced to leave with just a bit of sweet talking. Zhou Yu responded, can you be a little bit quieter? Be careful not to cut your hand. Lu Su chuckled to himself, before saying, if the Sun family is the type to go ahead and declare themselves king, do you think you're the kind who can see through them and use them for your goals? Li Si, Han Fei, and Huo Shuangbi Ch, Han Xin, Lu Buwei dash. Zhou Yu. He replied weakly, Lu Zijing, your tongue seems to be a little poisonous these days. Lu Su didn't speak, moving instead directly to cutting the ginseng. Zhou Yu stared at the canopy of his bed, his mind wandering. A moment later, Lu Su continued, if they aren't the type to go ahead and declare themselves king, then what are you going for this time? Zhou Yu responded, Sun Bafu is not that kind of person. Lu Su smiled at that and said, I'll bestow upon you a saying, be wary and protect yourself. Thanks, Zhou Yu responded. Though your words are not pleasant to hear, I know that you're saying them for my good. Primly and properly, Lu Su poured the ginger slices into the teapot, beginning to brew a ginger stew. As night fell, he climbed onto the bed, falling asleep in the same bed as Zhou Yu. Early in the next morning, Zhou Yu drank the ginger soup and gathered up his travel expenses. His face was still pale from his illness that had yet to heal, but he was afraid of waking his mother, so he had decided to take his leave of the fog-shrouded valleys of Shu County alone. I'm leaving, take care of yourself, Zhou Yu said. Be careful on the road, Lu Su said. If anything happens, send someone with a message. From this day on, Lu Su moved into Zhou Yu's house. After Madame Zhou rose in the morning, it was Lu Su who went to greet her in the morning, which was how Madame Zhou knew that her own son had already left on his journey despite his illness. She bore an expression of exasperation. He hadn't recovered yet, Lu Su said, but I couldn't persuade him to stay. Madame Zhou replied, let him go ba. He has the same temperament as his father, such an explosively fiery temper, oh well, oh well. Lu Su began to smile. At the same time, Zhou Yu was traveling north this time to head to Shaochun, but this time, his emotions were completely different from the last time he set out. He was wrapped in a thick fur cloak, wore a wolf pelt hat, and the foggy breath that he huffed out dissipated in the clear morning air of the white early winter day. The air of the wilderness was clean beyond compare. The cloth bundle that he had brought along carried a heavy 400 liang of gold, and in just a few days he would arrive in Shaochun. It had been over a month since the various marquises had risen against Dongzhou, and when the alliance had entered Luoyang, they had parted in discord over dividing up the spoils, each returning to their own territories. Zhou Yu brought the letter of recommendation that Lu Su had written into the city, and as soon as he entered, he felt that this place was majestic and open, not comparable at all to what his impression of it had been when he was a child. Shaochun was located to the north of Shu County, and it was considered one of the largest cities in Yangzhou. Ever since the king of Huainan Luan had been assigned this region, it was rumored that Shaochun had received the benefits of the Dragon Pulse on Beigong Mountain to the north, so the winters were warm, the summers cool, and the waters of the spring cold and clear. The citizens gathered here, and in less than 100 years, this place had become a major trading hub, and a land that abounded in plenty. It was early winter and the residents both within and outside of the city had finished their harvesting and planting for the year. They settled into their homes and trades, and the flames of war on the central plain seemed to be very distant from this place. This place had the same auspicious atmosphere as the area around Wabu Lake. Zhou Yu led his horse along by the reins, passing through the prosperous, busy market. He first asked after Sun Jian's troops as he went, but the citizens all responded that they didn't know, so Zhou Yu used Lu Su's letter to head towards the government office in the region. When the official saw the letter of recommendation, Zhou Yu explained why he had come. That same afternoon, he received a summons and headed towards the Shaochun government office. The Shaochun government office was where Yuan Shu was staying to ward off the chill of winter. After he returned from fighting Dongzhou, Yuan Shu had turned this estate into the general of the rear's estate. As soon as Zhou Yu entered the estate, soldiers came up to lead him into the main courtyard, before handing him over to an office clerk who was in charge of registering arrivals. Within the courtyard, there were rockeries set up in a classical style, and in the background was the sound of water burbling endlessly. Green pines that had been transplanted from Mount Baigong filled the front courtyard, and when he looked at the trunks of those trees, he saw that every one of them was over 100 years old. The clerk said, "The general of the rear is currently discussing matters with the prefect of Wu County and Su Gong, Lord Su. Zhou Gongzi, please wait for a moment." Zhou Yu nodded and a servant brought in snacks, letting Zhou Yu take tea in the entrance hall. He looked over the decorations around him, and they were all tables and chairs that were the cost of several small cities. Even the short table in the gatehouse was carved from wood of a pomegranate tree, and the jade vases and ivory sculptures placed on the shelves were probably plundered from Luoyang. Zhou Yu's family was rich as well, but he had never thought about enjoying goods this luxurious. While he was alive, Zhou Yu had warned him, time and again, that even if a family's wealth was vast, that was nothing compared to having a wellspring of knowledge. But because he saw more and more of such luxuries on a regular basis, Zhou Yu couldn't help but take it to heart. When the sky was darkening, the lamps were lit through the estate, and someone finally came for Zhou Yu. He wasn't angry, however, and he merely sat there quietly. If it had been Sun Sa instead, perhaps now he would have risen and left. But what status did Yuan Shu hold? Putting his own lack of an official post aside, even if it had been his father, who had once been the prefect of Luoyang, who'd come, he would also only be able to wait. Before he had left, his mother had reminded him, more than once, to think about what kind of a person his father had been back in the day, how he dealt with matters, and how he acted as an official. After Zhou Yu had set off, he had thought of Zhou Yi often for small matters. If his father had brought him on this journey, what he would have done, what he would have said. With this, he sat in the lobby, waiting extremely patiently for an entire afternoon. It wasn't until they lit the lamps in the lobby that a servant in charge came to summon him, saying, "The general is requesting the presence of Zhou Gongzi." Zhou Yu knew that he had finally cleared out the space to see him. Back then, when he was living in Shu County, he had often heard of Yuan Shu's reputation as a seeker of talent, and if he were to try and gain an official's position, his chances of getting one were only half at best. But finding a place to stay and temporarily reside was not an issue. "Ayo, nephew Zhou." Before Zhou Yu had even arrived, he heard the rich voice of a middle-aged man carry over from the main hall, and he knew that must be Yuan Shu. He immediately schooled his expression, and shining with happiness, he entered. His robes were dirty with the dust of the road as he properly greeted Yuan Shu with a kowtow and said, "Young nephew greets Uncle Yuan. Rise, quickly, please, rise." Yuan Shu personally came forward to lift him to his feet. To one side, there was another middle-aged man who laughed loudly, and he said, "Sure enough, I'm seeing you again." When Zhou Yu calmed and looked over, he saw that that was actually his old acquaintance, Qiao Mao. Qiao Mao and Zhou Yu both sighed upon seeing each other. Qiao Mao's beard and hair were grizzled, trembling faintly, and for a long while, he couldn't speak a single word. Finally, he said to Yuan Shu, in the midst of the sea of flames that was Luoyang, "Nephew Zhou gave the single steed we had for this old man to ride so I could escape. After returning to Yangzhou, this old man clinging onto life constantly regretted that." All right," Yuan Shu said smiling, waving a large hand. "He's come back now, so there's no need to say any more. Come, Zhou Yu, this is Su Gong, Uncle Su. Back in the day he was on good terms with your father as well." Yuan Shu then introduced Zhou Yu to another middle-aged man in the hall. Zhou Yu knew that this was the prefect of Wu County, Su Gong, and greeted him in the proper manner. Su Gong nodded his head, and Yuan Shu grabbed Zhou Yu's hand, showing him to his seat in a friendly manner. Zhou Yu's forebearers had been officials, and his grand-uncle, Zhou Jing, had held the important role of the Grand Commandant. If he was to recount carefully, his family did indeed have a connection to the Yuan family. Yuan Shu first brought up the friendship with Zhou Yu's grand-uncle, and then, in accordance with customs, he then discussed various matters that Zhou Yu's father had dealt with while he was living. Yuan Shu said, "The matter of your father, I was originally going to visit in person to give my condolences, but for a time I was unable to take my leave." Zhou Yu hurried to say, "Back then, when the general of the rear's envoy arrived, my mother was greatly moved. The first thing she wanted me to do when I arrived in Shaochun was to come here and greet Uncle Yuan." Yuan Shu laughed loudly and said good several times before continuing, "Just now, I heard old Chiao mention it as well. You're young, talented, and handsome, you have the courage to sacrifice yourself to save others, and you could also escape from Luoyang back then. Young man, I admire you." Su Gong and Xiao Mao both began to laugh. Zhou Yu hurried to decline that praise, but just as he was about to bring up Sun Sa, he saw that Xiao Mao's gaze was hesitant. He immediately understood, so he didn't bring up his coming here to see Sun Jian. "Zhou Yu," Yuan Shu said, delighted. "What plans do you have for the coming days?" Zhou Yu, who was sitting at one of the side tables for visitors, lifted his eyes to look at Yuan Shu. Yuan Shu's features were well formed, and his build burly. He kept his beard elegant and long, and a white jade gangmao hung at his waist. He wore a set of long robes, and his demeanor did indeed have others sighing in admiration. "I have no plans as of yet," Zhou Yu responded earnestly. "As of today, the emperor has been displaced from his throne, and Dong Zhou has not been able to be punished by law. Though the world watches with anticipation for Uncle Yuan to take up this heavy duty, young nephew has come to Shaochun, only hoping to assist uncle in whatever way is possible, with my utmost effort." Yuan Shu sighed and continued, "Rare that you would be so willing, you do not bring shame to your deceased father's name. But there are many conflicts, and even my Yuan family is powerless in the face of those. Oh well. Let us not speak of such things today. Now that you are here, I am very happy, and being able to see you is like being with your father in the past. In these next few days, stay in uncle's residence. Come. Bring in the wine." Zhou Yu put down the heavy burden in his heart, understanding that Yuan Shu had accepted him. After all, though amongst the various marquises his reputation was middling, if one was a scholar, any person who appreciated talent and gathered them would be highly regarded. This was especially true for such large families as the Yuan family. That night, Yuan Shu ordered the servants to lay out a banquet, and along with Su Gong and Xiao Mao, they enjoyed the wine and made merry. Zhou Yu didn't dare to speak out of turn, so he merely smiled and kept them company. It wasn't until the end of the banquet that Xiao Mao grabbed Zhou Yu's arm and gave him some advice, before saying that in the coming few days, he would go find Zhou Yu for a more detailed chat. Yuan Shu still held his wine cup, tottering out on unsteady legs, requesting them to drink a few more cups with him. Zhou Yu hurried forth to steady him. But, as soon as Su Gong and Xiao Mao left, Yuan Shu recovered his usual demeanor. Clearly, he had not been drunk at all. "Zhou Yu, you come with me," Yuan Shu ordered. Zhou Yu understood that with this, Yuan Shu was treating him as one of his own people, so he followed along behind him into the study. Yuan Shu first asked in detail about the situation in Zhou Yu's family, so Zhou Yu undid his bundle and handed over the gift that Lu Su had given him to be used in Shaochun. Formally, he placed it in front of Yuan Shu, saying, "This is a little something that mother directed young nephew to give to uncle." Wu. Yuan Shu glanced inside that box and found that there was a night luminous pearl inside. He ordered the servants to put it away. Zhou Yu then stood silently by Yuan Shu's side, not saying any more. Yuan Shu then asked, "How is your study of the Confucian classics?" Zhou Yu responded, "My father's legacy cannot go to waste, so I review them regularly." Yuan Shu asked selfishly, "You're well versed in the legal teachings as well?" "Yes," Zhou Yu said respectfully. Yuan Shu said, then uncle will test you with a question. Zhou Yu ground some ink for Yuan Shu, and with a wave of his brush, Yuan Shu came up with a test question. As he expected, it was the union of understanding classics and understanding laws that came up when an official was being recommended. After Zhou Yu received that question, he understood that Yuan Shu was testing him so that he could assign him an official post. With that, he took the scroll and went to one side, lifting his brush and beginning to write. At first, when his brush landed, his motions were a little choppy, but as time went on, he wrote faster and faster, and he finished with an exhale. In the recommendation system, the test was split into the two subjects of understanding classics and understanding laws. Confucianism and legalism were used together, but the problem that Yuan Shu had given him included both, so Zhou Yu had no other choice than to treat it seriously. Yuan Shu narrowed his eyes, a cup of tea placed by his hand. Most of the time, he was observing Zhou Yu's expressions. You sit up straight, and you are tall. The line of your back is also very pretty, Yuan Shu suddenly said, before he laughed loudly. Zhou Yu felt very awkward, and he hurried to say, Uncle has praised me too much. When you were small, you were probably constantly disciplined by your father, huh? Yuan Shu said, still laughing. Zhou Yu also chuckled. Yes, when I was small and learning to write characters and compose essays, my back often received the slap of his paddle. Woo, Yuan Shu said. Not bad, a handsome talented youth, you have both talent and good looks. Zhou Yu smiled humbly, and the study quieted once more. Not long after, Zhou Yu turned in his testing scroll, offering it up with two hands to Yuan Shu. Composing an essay was not something that could stump him, and Yuan Shu only looked at the beginning before calling in someone and ordering, bring this essay to Yang Hong for him to read over. Yang Hong was a Zhenshi under Yuan Shu's command, and Zhou Yu knew that more or less, he would have to wait for Yang Hong to assign him a post. Yuan Shu then said, keep me company as we stroll about the garden ba. Zhou Yu swiftly rose. Lamplight shone brilliantly through the dark night, and Yuan Shu, hands clasped behind his back, walked in front of him. In a respectful fashion, Zhou Yu followed behind him. Yuan Shu thought for a bit, before saying, since the Marquis of Mei has fled to Chang'an in the west, how do you see the situation in Luoyang developing? Zhou Yu thought deeply for a moment, before saying, though Luoyang is the capital, after it was set on fire, it is in reality no longer important. Instead, Nanyang has become more important, because historically it has been a land that is always fought over by strategists. You've spoken truly, Yuan Shu said. I've sent Sun Wenta to Nanyang, and as of today, he is holding his troops there, awaiting orders. Luoyang has already turned to rubble, and for a long while, it will not be able to be restored. If Uncle is interested in gaining Luoyang, then he can order General Sun to press ahead to Yanggran County, before splitting his troops and sending a group to conquer the Hang Pass, Zhou Yu said. With that, aside from Ma Teng in Liangzhou, if any of the various marquises want to mobilize troops to fight Dongzhou, they will all have to pass through the region of the Hang Pass. Yuan Shu sighed and said, that Sun Wenta doesn't listen to orders, it's not as easy as you put it. Are the Sun family's troops currently stationed in Luoyang? Zhou Yu asked. Wu. Yuan Shu seemed to be mulling over something. Zhou Yu continued, after Dongzhou kidnapped the emperor and fled west, in reality, Luoyang is already of very little value. Suzhou and Jingzhou, these places will be regions of strategic importance. With how this young nephew sees it, it'd be better to order General Sun to temporarily fall back to Nanyang County. Liu Biao will not easily let go of Jingzhou, Yuan Shu said. That old fox, in the alliance to defeat Dong, refused to go out and do battle. Do you think that if I were to issue a writ of amnesty, would he surrender? Zhou Yu shook his head and said, sooner or later, Jingzhou will have to be fought over, but it's better for that to be later than earlier. Liu Biao is of the royal clan, and he is insistent on defending his claim to the throne. At the heart of it, he won't stand on anyone's side. If we attack at this time, we would only be losing the support of the people. Yuan Shu smiled at that, before he stroked his beard. Zhou Yu knew that with his assessment of the battle situation, he had clearly not been able to meet Yuan Shu's expectations, and he couldn't help sighing internally. It is what it is, Yuan Shu said warmly to Zhou Yu, clearly unwilling to say any more on the matter. You go rest first, tomorrow, I will send someone to call for you. With that, Zhou Yu and Yuan Shu bowed and bid each other farewell. End chapter.